Welcome back to another episode, everybody. Today I want to share a quick tip I have been working on with the TRX4M as I've been tuning the suspension on this car, and I wanted to just share with you my success and what I've been doing to get this car sitting as low as possible. Lower anyway. I want it to be still on springs, but I don't want it to be like the monster truck it was. So I have been playing around with the springs on this truck, and I thought I had ruined it, and then I realized I could modify the springs. So what I want to show you is how to adjust these springs, so we can adjust these springs to match what we're trying to achieve with our suspension. So I have done all the rest of them, and now I've got the last one. I wanted to stop and film how to do it. So first thing I did was cut the spring. It's not in half. It's probably like 60 or 55, 45, but I have cut the spring. And then the first step is to use the pliers. So we've got this little bent end here where we want it to be like the factory end, where it sits flat, so you can sit on the end, the stopper. So we take the pliers and we pinch down exactly where we want it to sit flat, like so, like this. And then we take a mini blowtorch like this, and we just get the end really hot. Yeah, it might even start to glow. Okay, now that it's really hot, we just stop heating it up and we let it cool. It doesn't matter if you make a mistake, because what you can do is, once you've fixed a mistake like I have, another heat. Alright, and then let it cool off. If you've got some way of cooling it down, like a fan, just use a little fan, help cool it down. And then it will set in that position. So that's good. Now it's pretty good, okay? And you can spend a bit longer getting it perfect. Next step is to really just pull the spring and make it longer. And you'll have to do this a few times, but you'll get it extending. See that? Now it's much longer, okay? And we want it to be a little longer than, it's going to be quite bouncy, you can see that. And being under the load of the car and driving around, I'm sure it'll compress a little bit. It won't stay this extended, but it's really cool because you can make these springs like dual rate. If you wanted to just expand like this section, look, these coils are really long and then these ones are really short, so that's like dual rate spring, which is rather cool. And then we just put it back on the car. Let's do that and see how it performs. Okay, so the spring's on. Give it a few test pumps. Okay, and then this is probably the hardest part, is getting it all back together again. Okay, and there you go. This one's probably a little bit long, but you can just play around with it. You can just over compress it again and it should go down. But I think that's really come a long way into solving my suspension problems, particularly how the car sits. So I might play around with this a little bit longer and try and get it to just sit, slightly lower. But what we want is the suspension to fully extend when there's no load. So like, for example, when it goes over a rock, yeah. So you could imagine that this car's driving along and it's under load, right? So the wheels are on the ground and it's going along, and then it goes over a rock, right? And this one comes up and you want it to extend like this. And then as it goes over the rock, this one goes down and then this one goes up. And you want it to sit, when it comes back to just sort of driving on flat ground, that it sits like really low, right? Or if it's on the side of a hill, you want it to sit nice and low so it's not like tipping over. So yeah, it's a little thing I've just worked out, and it meant that I was able to tune the suspension. If you play around with it a bit longer, I mean, I just did one on tutorial in front of the camera. It's a little bit more difficult than if you're, for the first couple ones where I didn't have the camera in the way, I was able to sort of just tune these. Have a go at that. I just will let you know that you will be destroying the spring, so do this at your own risk. This is a complete disclaimer that you will be, there is no going back from this. You will have to order new springs if you want to go back to the factory settings for your springs. So just be aware that you will be technically destroying the product to do this mod. But yeah, if you're comfortable with that, then yeah, go ahead and have a try. We'll see if we can get the other springs. But see, this one hasn't been done, and so it's sort of just free floating. But you want it to be so that when the suspension's fully extended, the spring is, but when it sits down there, it sort of sags back down. So I'll make a new video in the future when I have any more updates on how to improve this little mod. But it is technically free unless you make a mistake, but I think it'll be okay. I think it's alright. I was considering just taking the springs right off and just running it springless, just on the shock, as I previously did. I'll put a little tag up here. I was running no springs. I was just running on shocks and it was just bottomed out. But I did want a little bit of suspension, so I played around with it. And though that suspension, actually, that ended up going on a different truck. These are non-branded, or Cool Racing, which I'm pretty sure is not like a real brand. They're just an OEM product. But they are basically the same as the Enduro springs. I'll see if I can get you a link for either this or the Enduro one in the description if you're interested in playing around with it yourself. So thanks for tuning into this one, and I'll see you on the next one.